Well, if you're like me, you are a paper hoarder. And the good news is Tori Weyers is here and she is gonna help us use up all those little pieces of paper today, aren't you, Tori?
I am.
So what are we doing? What are we making?
So we are gonna just glue it all in. I love to take all my giant pile of stash paper and just pick some randomly and glue it in and make a composition out of it in my sketchbook.
Oh gosh, let's do it.
So I have a couple samples here just to kind of show you where we're gonna get to. They're all very different, but it really is just randomly picking. So I'm not even gonna look, I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna pick some random paper. This is what we're gonna use.
Okay. That's a great way to choose, I have to say, because I can agonize for hours over every little piece and what I'm using it for.
I do too, because I'm like, oh, do those colors match or do those marks match?
Oh, this is really pretty, I don't want to cut it up, or
Right.
like whatever it is that you're having, yes.
I love this so much, I don't want to use it.
Which is crazy, that's a crazy thing to say, except I think we have all done that.
All the time.
So it's a good way to really use up your scraps. And I will point out from a storage point of view, I think this is a really clever way that you have using the plastic photo storage box to hold all of your scraps because, you know, I always wonder what to do with those little pieces. Should you keep them? Should you not? And this means when your box is full, you are done hoarding scraps, right?
That's
or you
right.
got to use them up.
Yes, and it's really nice traveling with scraps can also be kind of a pain because they get wrinkled or they get messed up. So this way they're all kept nice and neat.
Because you could certainly do this on an airplane. I mean, it's already cut or ripped or whatever it is. You're using a glue stick. I mean, really easy stuff that you could do on an airplane, on a train, in your hotel room.
Yeah.
I love travel art.
I do too. And any time that I can be out using my scraps and adding color and adding life and creating composition to my sketchbook is always a good time.
So are you basically creating the canvas for your composition now?
I am.
And are you is that just based on where the scraps are, where they ended up?
It is. It would be totally fine if my canvas was here and they went outside of it too.
Okay.
So any way that you want to kind of work it. I also made a compositional element here, which I'm going to use a little color in.
Cool. Now, when you use paper collage and you've used a glue stick, are there any rules about the mediums that you should be using with it? Like I see you're using watercolor. Is that going to be too wet? Is it going to make the paper peel up or?
No, I really don't pay attention to any of those art rules. I feel like if the paper peels up, I'm just going to add some medium on top of that and it'll stick right back down.
You're a girl after my own heart. I love hearing that because I think it's true. We worry too much instead of just going for it and using what you have on hand, you know? Sometimes I'll see a project that I really like that somebody does, but I don't have the supplies. So I have to figure out how I can do it with what I do have. And now you're mixing your watercolor with what?
This is acrylic ink. So I'm picking out colors, these blues, which I used in this watercolor, and this yellow in acrylic ink, and I'm adding that to kind of draw your eye across the page.
So that's how you're picking your colors, is based on what your scraps are. Cool. What are you doing now?
So now I want to incorporate these scraps into the composition so they're not just floating pieces of paper. And so I'm adding lines to connect them to my boundaries. I might add some circle, again with the ballpoint pen because it goes right through that wet paint, around this little circle cutout and kind of bringing everything together connected.
So you're kind of grounding them and making them relate to each other. Plus, I think of it as really interesting design elements that you're adding.
Yes. So since it's in your sketchbook, it's a great place to just experiment both with color, with line, maybe a little scribbling in the background to kind of bring some visual interest and really just play.
I love that. It almost looks like it could be writing that I just can't read.
I love doing writing too. It adds just a lot of fun.
I think that also it makes it really personal when you put writing in because that's you telling your story. I come from a scrapbooking background, and so for me, memory keeping is always such an important part of art making.
Definitely. I wrote happy for me in here because all of the expressive line here just creates joy and happiness.
Super cool. Well, let's look at some of the finished ones that you brought with us. Can you tell us anything about something here?
So this was a really interesting one because what I randomly pulled was complementary colors. So then I picked up that orange that was on this scrap and then put some little dashy dotty lines that were kind of here in to connect them.
Cool.
love hot pink. That's always a winner, and that was some of the scraps I picked here. So it really is about kind of allowing the randomness to be inspiration.
I think this is such a great exercise for freeing yourself. Thank you so much, Tori.